speaker, Dr. Parra, and give him a hand.
Hello. Can you hear me now? Yes. Good morning, everybody. It's a privilege to be here with you. Thank you for the introduction. It's wonderful to be among us, I guess, to talk about some of these issues. I was surprised when I came this morning to hear that, actually pleasantly surprised, to hear that you have these forums with such challenging topics. I think it's very, very important for the church to I guess, talk about them so we can get into what everybody else is talking about, and see also to venture our own perspectives from our angle of the church. I am thankful because we have an attorney among us, and I appreciate that because I am not. And talking about issues of migration, immigration, diasporas, and refugees, exiles, asylees, and all that is kind of mind-boggling for the common population. And I think we need to be able to understand and handle these issues, because our church is made of it. As we probably know by now, most of our church is outside of the United States. 18 million right now. Probably next year will be 19 million. And most of the church is outside. So we need to be able to converse, dialogue with our own. I would like to open this up real quick. Yeah. I think you have it, yes. Okay. This is a picture of a woman trying to get some food, and she's being pushed away by those other men. This is a picture taken in Greece from Syrian refugees, and so I thought this is a very interesting perspective of migration today. We talk about global migration. We've been moving as humans since the beginning. We have a perspective that I would like to share with you here is a Christian perspective, but I would like to share with you some facts in reference to the label of migrant and refugee and what that means. Because I don't know what is our background, then I would like to put the definition there. What's in a label? Well, we would like to look at those titles, I guess, what a refugee is. That's just a simple definition that defines what a refugee is, right? There are some synonyms in reference to this, and I find them sometimes very interesting, especially with when we talk about expat and expatriates. It seems to me that those that are from the United States and probably England and so on, they're expats. They're never immigrants. They're never migrants. Migrants and immigrants are the others, like us, like me. As I was, I guess you were already mentioned, reminded, I'm from Colombia. And, but I came here in 1979. 1979. Not as a refugee, perhaps. Again, labels. Now, a person who flees to a foreign country or power to escape danger or persecution. Simple. Simple. There are many other labels and definitions in terms of that. We do have another one, and that is the issue of immigrant. As we know, the word immigrant is coming in, and immigrant is leaving a country. So here, a migrant is those who move around. So we have to kind of have a base terminology. A person who comes to live permanently in a foreign country. Who comes, why? Because it's an immigrant, is coming in. So that's basically what it is. Synonyms, we have those. Non-native, that's also another terminology. You will not hear from me the term illegal. Illegal in reference to a person, because we are never illegals. Illegals are actions but not people. We have an attorney, so she can clarify that to you. In my case, when I refer to people, I will never mention that they are illegal. That's just controversial. By the way, I just want to mention this perspective that I'm bringing is not La Sierra's perspective. Okay, I'm not endorsing. It's just I'm talking about a human condition. Okay, and when we talk about these, we may have controversy because of how we perceive issues of immigration, migration, issues of diaspora, issues of displacement, and so on. And so I just want to leave that there for now, and we continue with these. Question. Are refugees, asylees, immigrants? And I'm a teacher, I'm not a pastor, so we can dialogue as we go. I know we have a section for questions, Q&A later, but what are they immigrants? Refugees and asylees? Yes or no? 50-50 chance. Yes. Yes, right? But then the next question. Are they authorized or unauthorized immigrants? If they are refugees, they are authorized. But then we have another question. Can a refugee or asylee be a citizen? From what I understand, they come and they have a status, authorized status when they arrive, and within 5 years they can become a citizen. Correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure. But within 5 years they can become a citizen. Okay? So they are also immigrants. We do have perspectives in terms of refugees and migrants, especially in the rhetoric with publications, articles, media, and so on. And I have a perspective here from the editor of Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera is a journal that is in Arabic and also in English. And so I'm taking the perspective of Barry Malone. Now, when we talk about refugees and migrants, he says that migrant is a word that strips suffering people of a voice. Substituting refugee for it is, in the smallest way, an attempt to give some back. Now, we cannot talk about, you heard in Europe, for example, we have the whole idea of people crossing borders. And we have to talk about borders, too. We have borders here, and you're San Diego, I mean, it's just, this is a border town. Geographically speaking, let's put it that way, geographically speaking. We have borders in every town of the United States. But geographically speaking, this is a border town. Now, we cannot talk about the migrant crisis in the Mediterranean, says Barry Malone. Why? Because It said that the word strips suffering people of a voice. What we have in the Mediterranean going into Europe is a refugee crisis, not a migrant crisis. What do we have in the United States today? What do we have in the United States going into Canada today? That's another question. Because many are leaving this country to go to other places where they feel safer. That's currently. Okay? There are some facts that I would like to share with you. How many people displaced by 2016? 65 million already. Mass displacement everywhere, people everywhere, from Syria through Greece, from Central Africa through North Africa into Europe, from Latin America into the other countries in Latin America, from Mexico, from Central America into the United States. All of this movement, 65 million and a half, right? We also have this information here. Again, these are facts. This is not collected from sources already. 1 in 33 people on earth is an international migrant. The other one, how many refugees are admitted into the United States? Well, in 2016, it was 110,000. In 2017, it's 50,000. So what does that tell us? We have reduced the number of acceptable refugees in this country. And so I'll leave it there for now. That's according to the MPI, which is the Migration Policy Institute. Where do refugees come from? 80% of refugees in 2017 come from DRC. DRC is Democratic Republic of Congo, Central Africa, and also Iraq and Syria. Those are the top 3 countries that I see in the research when I look at these journals. The other ones, as far as the United States, what are the top 3 states that receive refugees for resettlement? California, this is it. This is one of them. Texas and New York. Of course, you have other states, but these are the top 3 in the references that I looked at from MPI. What is the religious composition of those coming in? This is one of the issues, is that most of them, or the majority of them, are not Christian. This is one of the issues that we are battling in media today. Politicians, media, and blah, blah, blah. Okay? 46% are Muslims and 44% are Christian. The other one, what is the age and gender of those refugees? Well, children and women made up 67 to 71%. That depends where they're coming from. If they come from Ethiopia, or if they come from Central Africa, or if they come from America, then we have 67 to 71% is the majority of the refugees. They're children and they're women. Okay. Again, I'm using facts. Last year, immigrants deported from the United States, 240,000. And this year, that has increased in terms of how it will be by the end of the year. Apparently, in fact, I was reading that this morning, it has increased 110%, 150% actually, the rate of deportees from the United States. We can talk about the reasons, we can talk about who needs to be deported, who doesn't, but I'm giving you just numbers right now. And this one is a very interesting one, I think. Now, we have an increment of 230% of those leaving the United States going into Canada. They're experiencing, according to their records, 230% increase under the STCA. I believe that is Shorter Country Act. In other words, people who move to another country, they have come from one country, they're in another country, that's the second. And now they move to another country because they think that one is safer than the second one. And they are not going to be returned to the second country, nor the first. So they are going across the border into Canada. We had an uptick, an increment of people going through the snow in February, March, going into Canada. Kenyans, Burundians, Ghanaians, you name it, going up into Canada because of that. We had not experienced that before. Canada may change their laws too because of the increment, although they need a lot of immigrants. They have a lot of land. They need a lot of immigrants. I experienced that in Manitoba. Any Canadians here? Oh, okay. Oh, four, okay. All right.
Green card in 3 weeks in 1964. Permanent visa in 3 weeks.
Wow.
That's a story all in itself.
Canada, that's right. Yeah. Mexico, I believe, is like 12 years. How long does it take to get a visa from Mexico, coming from Mexico? Yes. Well, I know it's over a decade. You have to wait, to get a visa. And I'm not going to get into all the little details because I know I'm not an attorney. I'm just viewing these from a social standpoint and as a human condition. We all came from somewhere. Later or earlier, or we came from somewhere. I arrived from Colombia into the United States in 1979. After that, what are the reasons for displacement? What are the reasons for people to want to move? That's one of the questions. What is in a label? I didn't know I was a Hispanic until I arrived to the United States. That tells you about labels. And I walked out of immigration in JFK when I arrived, and I was just looking at these papers. And I will never forget that particular moment. And I use this as a learning moment with my students when we talk about immigration and issues of displacement, is I looked at this form that they gave me when I arrived to immigration, the immigration office. And I don't see myself in that form because it says Caucasian, if you're this, that, if you're white, if you're black. And I was like, okay. I'm not there. Hispanic? Well, I'm not Hispanic. I'm Colombian. So, and then other, well. So I asked the officer, I'm not here. And he literally grabbed the paper from my hand, grabbed the pen, and he said, you are this. Welcome to the United States. And I will never forget that. Because it's a moment of labeling. It's a moment where you are provided a name that you will be recognized under, but you never knew about it. And that's why I say I never knew I was a Hispanic until I came to the United States. Yes. Hispanic. At that time, there were no Latinos in that particular label. Now we do. But then I didn't have that. It was just Hispanic kind of thing. Oh, now it's a whole array of things, and I just leave that alone. But I was just commenting on my experience, right, coming in. Now, I did not choose that label. Let's put it that way. Is a label permanent? Does that mean I will always be Hispanic in the United States? Or Latino? Oh, yeah. That's something that is socially acceptable or unacceptable. Okay? And then, of course, can a label be misplaced? My experience, I think, is part of it. It answers that question. I do have to share with you a couple of things. Of course, I gave it up I should have stayed quiet and not tell you where I was from, so you could tell me, who do you say I am? You know? Because that is always different from who I think I am, or who I say I am. It's always different. And it all depends where I am too. Because when I'm in Italy, they think I'm Brazilian. You see? So it depends. It's kind of, it moves. That kind of moves, that particular label. I believe there is no history without stories. And there is no learning without history. So I would like to share with you some of my path, and I don't want to spend the whole time in it, but so you somehow understand where I'm coming from with this particular issue. This is the issue of my research: migration, diasporas, nostalgia, identity formation, okay, that kind of thing. I arrived in 1979, come from Colombia, with a visa that it was for 10 days. It is 2017. Of course, you'll say, oh, that doesn't sound good. What does that mean? I didn't tell you this, Mary. I wanted to keep it to. But the whole idea of becoming a non-authorized immigrant in the United States. And years went by as a non-authorized immigrant in the United States. 1986, we had a law that permitted that I would become legal. I hate that terminology, but authorized in the United States. Right? Amnesty of 86. Joined the United States Air Force that same year. And I was in that particular path for 2 terms. Became a citizen within 2 years, because once you are in the military, you can apply within 2 years. And if you do not, then you cannot stay in the military. So it's either you do or you're out. And I said, I do. And so I became a citizen of the United States, and of course, fulfilled the terms of service. By the way, I was in the medical field. I was a paramedic within the military, and I was also a linguist. So I was getting extra pay, whatever that means, extra pay because of language. You know, going to school at the same time. That I have to thank the military for, and that is part of my education, because I was able to get my bachelor's degree and my master's degree. After that, I had to leave. I ended up in, as Mary mentioned, I ended up with the Blue Devils in North Carolina, Duke, another challenge. So that's one path. The other path is as a Seventh-day Adventist. I was not born a Seventh-day Adventist. As Mary mentioned, I'm the first one in my family who's a Seventh-day Adventist. In the United States, I became a Seventh-day Adventist in New York City through the health message, I guess, at that point. So I was the first one leaving the country, leaving my house. I was 19. Arrived to New York, different country, different language, all the experiences. I'm sure many of you have some experiences similar to that. After that, as an Adventist, I embraced the message, and I touched, I got in touch with my mother over the phone from New York to Colombia. And I was able to encourage her to go to the church. And she went in and she never left. And then after that, she became a very missionary woman. She's more missionary than she is. I'm not. And my brother, my sister, my uncles, some of my cousins. The last one was my dad. That was hard. But that's another story. He wanted to get baptized when everybody would be together. But I've always been away. And 10 years passed before I saw them again. And so when I saw them again in New York, then my dad wanted to get baptized. And so he was the last. My brother, too. So everybody, I guess, closer family, became a Seventh-day Adventist. And they are, most of them are active in the church. My parents are. They deacon and elders and all that. In fact, I have functioned also as elders and deacons, and we have seated churches around the United States, in Salt Lake City, and with my wife. My wife is here. She's always been with me, and from Utah to North Carolina to Arizona, Tucson, Yuma, all of that. Moving a lot from east to west, west to east again to Tennessee, because I was there 15 years teaching at Southern. And then I came back this way. That's the Adventist side. We do have many, I would say, faces to the same figure, I guess. It's multifaceted. So yes, I am an immigrant, but I'm also an U.S. citizen. But I'm also a Colombian citizen. So I hold both nationalities. And as a scholar, that's another face. As Mary mentioned earlier, had the privilege to teach in various institutions. And this particular subject of immigration is very dear to me because I am an immigrant. And that I will never forget. I do, however, sometimes I go to presentations where people think that I do not speak English. And that is a little bit challenging because, do you remember the question, is the label permanent? It seems that it is. Because it doesn't matter how long you are in this country, you will always be an immigrant. Whether you speak or you educate yourself, or you will always be an immigrant. Whatever that means. I just want to leave it there. Because some of these things we cannot complete in this particular session. So I just kind of mentioned certain things as we go. And I figured some of you are familiar with that, some of these experiences. Some of you may not be. I don't know. You may say, well, that was my grandparents. And they didn't come through the border, mind you. They came through Ellis Island. Legally. I understand. That was then. But we have to deal with now, right? And now we have populations moving around the globe for various reasons. And the most recent one will be the amount of people that are going to be moving because of climatic conditions. That's coming up. We have many people coming into this country and Europe and centers of power because of persecution, war, because of famine, because of But we still have to see the amount of people that are going to be moving because of climate conditions. That is going to be staggering. Thank you. That's coming up. I just wanted to mention that. So what is my label? Venture it. I said I'm not Hispanic. I said I'm not Latino. I said I'm Colombian. I get questioned with this issue because they say, well, you just want to deny your background. Well, my background is Colombian. Yeah, but you're Latino. Well, I think this issue is become very sticky. Okay? This is a statement from a book that I'm reading right now. Is called Making Hispanics. Professor Mora, I think she's from Berkeley, tackles this particular issue of making Hispanics. The whole idea of being a Hispanic in the United States, since the Nixon era, when everybody down south of the border was blanketed under one label, and that's Hispanic. And so, for all the discourse surrounding Hispanics, few can explain what the category means. What does it mean? Even when you ask Hispanics, what does that mean to you? Is kind of escaping. It's a concept that escapes. It's very fluid. Why? Because we're being defined. I don't know why we're being defined, really, because not all Hispanics speak Spanish. And I don't know what a Hispanic is, really. And so I'll just leave that there. The other statement from her is Hispanics in the U.S. represent different national origins, skin colors, socioeconomic classes, regions, generational statuses, and languages. So what are we? That's the part that it gets sticky. How do we call ourselves? We, by the way, in Latin America, we're still debating as to who we are. Still, in Latin America. Because in our countries, we have also other communities and societies that do not speak the national language. And by the way, the U.S. does not have a national language. The U.S. has not yet put out English as a language. And I think it's late in the game to set up a language. That was then when they formed this country. That's when they have formalized, but they didn't. Our forefathers were very wise about that. We are dealing with these issues now. So we do have Guatemala, over 22 languages, Mexico, over 50 languages. I mean, so many different ethnic groups in the same pack of Mexico. And so each nation pushes a national discourse. And that's what we have also in the United States. The problem is that many people come to this place. Many people come to this country. And now we are supposed to be called Americans, right? So, but I had that question in the past. Are you an American? I was born in America. And they said, oh, no, you didn't. You came from Colombia. I say, that's America. And so what I do, so I've been an American since birth. And I was born in Colombia. I said, oh, no, but that's that kind of American. Now, I'm talking about American. It's like, well, what does that mean? That kind of American, I'm talking about America. What does that mean? The whole continent is America. So that part is always an issue in academics. How do we define this issue of being an American? I say, I'm a U.S. citizen. That works better. Yeah. And I don't want to say the other words that in Latin America they use for those from the United States. I don't want to work with those terminologies. Because that we have in every country, in every society, we have terminology that demeans other people. It doesn't matter where you're from. And when I stand up here and reveal some of these issues that are personal, I would say, well, I'm biased. But you are too. All of us are biased. One way or another, we're biased. You just sit down and think for a little bit about that. It is that way. Now, I wanted to mention something before, because I think I have like 5 minutes left, in reference to what does the Bible say about immigrants, strangers, foreigners, refugees? Because I had people say, well, the Bible doesn't talk about refugees. Yes, it does talk about strangers. The Bible says strangers. A stranger is a foreign. Stranger, extranjero, stranger, right, in Spanish. So I would say that we do have some verses, and there are quite a few verses in reference to these. But I want to base myself on 2 or 3, because those hit the point. Leviticus 19:33-34 says there, when, it doesn't say if, it says when. We are in the when. When a stranger sojourns with you in your land, it says, you shall not do him or her. I added her. The Bible doesn't have her. It's him. But I added her, because I have to account for that. But you shall not do him or her wrong. You shall treat the stranger who sojourns with you as the native among you. These are heavy words, though. As the native among you, and you shall love him as yourself. For you were strangers in the land of Egypt, and I am the Lord your God. That's from the Bible itself. It takes about a week, by the way, to unpack this verse. Because, notice, it says, you shall do him no wrong. What is wrong or right in my mind? Because we may be justifying right, but we're doing wrong. Or the other way around. Now, stranger, who's the stranger? I mean, look around. Who's the stranger? And then it says to treat him as a native and then love him as yourself. What does it mean to love someone as yourself? Here's another one. Ezekiel 47:22. You shall allot it as an inheritance for yourselves and for the sojourners who reside among you and have had children among you. Oh, DACA. Huh? Those children who were born here, those who had no papers. You know how many people, about 3 years ago, I don't know right now, but have been deported, quote unquote. By the way, to be deported, you have to be from somewhere else. You cannot legally deport somebody to nowhere else. These people who have been deported hold American passports. And they are in Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua. They're there. Children, teenagers. You say, huh? Yes, over 1.5 million. They're down in this area, what we call today the Northern Triangle, is Nicaragua, Honduras, and the Central American countries. People are being deported, quote unquote, which is that term doesn't make any sense when you're from here. You can only be deported to the United States if you have an American passport. But it says there that among you have children, okay, it's an inheritance to have these children among us. They shall be to you as native-born children of Israel, which with you they shall be allotted an inheritance among the tribes of Israel. That's from the Bible. I'm not discussing, it's there. In every Bible you find these particular verses. And then we apply them accordingly. Last one that I'm going to use. This is very commonly used. Matthew 25:35. For I was hungry and you gave me food, and I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was a stranger. Okay. Have you, any of you, been strangers anywhere? Just, oh, I see some hands. Yeah, me too. Yeah, okay, you too. Sometimes I'm a stranger in my neighborhood. And sometimes I see those who are strangers in my neighborhood. Who is my stranger? Who do I catalog, label stranger? Perhaps one that doesn't think like me, perhaps one that doesn't dress like me, perhaps that one that, I don't know. So we human beings are full of idiosyncrasies. We have our own ways of cataloging things, and we like to label and catalog. And many of us cannot go on our day without labeling and cataloging things. And it bothers us when somebody, we cannot put them into a category. Like, you're funny. Where are you from? Yeah, well, I'm from New Mexico. Yeah, but where are your parents from? New Mexico. Where are your grandparents from? New Mexico. Yeah, you don't, that particular expression? Because we human beings seem to need to be able to put people in their place. In our place is sometimes a little bit better. Always our place is a little bit better. Think about it. Yeah, he is there and had that, but I am this. So and so and so and so, but I am that. Or my family is not. Or stranger. Who's the stranger? Who's the stranger in among us? There is a. Do we have a choice? Yes. In reference to others. Do we have a choice? Or do we have? We always have the choice to say, yeah, that's just Latinos, that, or those are just Chicanos, or these are just this and that. Or I don't want to call any more labels, but that's. I use those because they put it on me, and so if I say it, then I'm not pointing the finger to anybody else. Do we have a wish or desire for others? What is the wish and desire that we have for others? Do we have a responsibility with others? I hope so. I hope we take a responsibility for others. Not just our family, but the collective, the society itself. We should take a chunk of something and do well for society. Whatever your flavor is. Whether you like to go feed people in a park, whether you like to give Bible studies, whether you like to give clothes away, it doesn't matter. Whether you like to instruct English to those who do not speak English. Take a piece of that particular society. It's our responsibility. Okay? And of course, the whole idea of having to be, the need for introspection. I have about 4 minutes left. And then, of course, questions. We must intentionally seek self-reflection. In other words, the problem is not in the newspapers and the media. The problem is here. We need to self-reflect as to how we perceive ourselves and, of course, how we perceive others. We need to embrace ourselves first. You cannot love others without loving yourself. So, we need to perceive others as ourselves because they are. They are just another human being. And then we need to accept others as ourselves with all the shortcomings, with all the successes and failures and all that, and emotional issues. And yeah, we have to. Then we need to embrace others as ourselves. Once we embrace ourselves, then we can embrace others. And finally, we need to empower others as ourselves. Okay. It's just a path to better society anyway. We do have a ministry. You familiar with it? ARIM, Adventist Refugee and Immigrant Ministries. This is a very important ministry in our church. You should check it out. We don't have time, but you should check it out in the web. They have tons of good things. And in fact, I had a video, but I won't be able to. The World Refugee Day was when? June 20th by United Nations. Our church has our own, its own Refugee Awareness Day. It's last month. You can check it out through that same website. I just want to leave you, I'm going to skip the video, leave you with a thought, and that is the same verse that I started with. Before questions, I'm very aware of time, so I just leave it there for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Parra, for that thought-provoking presentation. Again, for those who don't know me, my name is Yvette Lopez Cooper. My son, who you probably know better than I do, is Jacob, and so I'm usually with him most of the time. But professionally, I'm an immigration lawyer. I've been practicing for close to 20 years, and I have been on both sides of the arguments. I've worked with the government and with the immigration courts, and now I'm a defense attorney. The Supreme Court has weighed in on this issue many times, and they have said that immigration law, next to tax law, is the most complicated area of all legal subjects. So much so that when somebody comes to me and I have to determine whether this person has legal status, sometimes I don't even know. That's how complicated it is. But today, Dr. Parra gave us some really great questions about, as Christians, right? As an attorney, it's a completely different experience. But as a Christian, how do I handle these cases? And I have to tell you that as an immigration lawyer, asylum or refugee cases are my least favorite cases. They're very difficult to win. You have somebody in front of you who has fled their home country and has gone through terrible things. People from Africa, child soldiers, who, they're right before you and they're telling you about all these horrific things. Guerrillas came in the middle of the night, took their family away, stuff from movies. And they're looking at you as their savior to try to represent them. And I have to tell them many times, my hands are tied. Immigration law says that you're not eligible for anything. But as a Christian, what does the Bible tell us to do? I know in the last 10 years, I've been involved with the immigration reform issues. I've lobbied Congress. And I know that churches, the interfaith community, has been very active on this subject. I'm curious, Dr. Parra, and then we'll open it up, whether religion should be, as Christians, whether religion should be part of our asylum and refugee policy. Because one of the things that President Trump did during his first week in office is pass a series of executive actions on immigration issues. And one of them was the travel ban, which I'm sure everybody has heard of. And it's right now, the Supreme Court has decided that they're going to be weighing in on it also. President Trump has also not been shy about saying that he's a Presbyterian and he is in favor of Christians from Syria being exempt from this travel ban. What about Christians from Egypt, Christians from Iraq? The Chaldean Iraqi Christian community in Detroit is very proud of saying that they helped elect Trump. Christians were very much supportive of this administration. But at the same time, we have the First Amendment that says the government should not establish religion. Should religion be part of our asylum policy? Because we can disagree on what the government can do, but as Christians, is that something that we have a responsibility to be part of? Or do we just leave unto Caesar what is unto Caesar?
I think, thank you. It's a good question, especially for us. I mean, we're here, Seventh-day Adventists, but the basics, as I mentioned from the Bible, is stranger. To me, we should help anyone. Doesn't really matter what religion they are, even if they don't worship the God that we worship. Simply because they're humans. Now, this is not easy to enact as law, but it doesn't really matter, because it is our responsibility as Christians to approach anyone from any religion that is in need. And if we can give them a hand, why can't we? La Sierra University Church is involved in what is called the plan, the 92505, which is the area code, to help anyone who is on the streets, whether they need shelter or they need food. We're not asking what religion are you, or if you go to church. Doesn't matter. So to me, is above that, because the call is much greater than the law. The call is divine. To me, the responsibility is divine, not the law. I'm not, how can I say, I don't want to dismantle or demean the law of the country. No, it is. But our God is above that. And when we look at it from that point of view, we can, well, I don't want to get into political issues, but to me, I just see it as a responsibility. Regardless of whether you're Muslim or you're not, whether you are pagan or you are Christian, it doesn't matter. It's a human condition. That's why I say it's a human phenomenon, because I don't want to lock it into a policy of any government. Any government. By the way, U.S. is not the only country that is tangled up in all these issues of immigration. Every country is having issues with immigration. And so, yeah.
Great, thank you. Oh, you want me to, okay. Do we have any questions from the former Canadian?
I'll take microphone around to people, because we are taping this, and people do buy these CDs, and they want to hear the questions as well as the answers.
Canada has been one of the country that has accepted the largest number of refugees from Syria. So my husband, who's Canadian and an immigrant to this country, grew up with a lot of people from the Middle East there. Okay, thank you.
Just as a preface to my question, this church is laden with lawyers. I see 4 of them. Besides you, miss, I see 3 or 4 of us sitting in this audience. So be careful what you say. Here's my question. This is not my question. This is probably a question that I heard the gentleman that has the 8 o'clock hour on CNN. I can't remember his name. Maybe you know him. Tucker. Is it Tucker or whatever? This is a question he asked on immigration. And by the way, I appreciate the fact you're drawing a strong, strong color line between the term migrant and immigrant. I have told many of my friends and many in my Sabbath school class that one of the first migrants was Joseph, Mary, and baby Jesus when they were running to Egypt because Jesus' life was at stake. Now, here's my question. This is the question that Tucker Carlson asked. Does every human on the planet have a right to be an immigrant to the United States? I didn't say migrant, I said immigrant. Because this is the reason, this is a question that's troublesome to me, because I'm an immigrant. However, I have to correct you, Dr. Parra. You no longer are a Colombian. By citizenship, you are an American. The reason is, when you took the oath, you raised your hand, you had to renounce all other citizenships.
No.
That's by American law. Now, I'll tell you, let me just explain and I'll quit. By Canadian law, I'll always be a Canadian because I was born on Canadian soil. But I never travel on my Canadian passport to Cuba, for example, which I wanted to do with my brother, who's a lawyer in Canada. Because if I do, I could be denaturalized. Under U.S. law, you can only have allegiance to one country, and one country alone, and that's the U.S. Now, we can have that discussion later. Here's my question. Yeah, I think I asked my question. Does every immigrant have a right on the planet to become an immigrant to the United States?
Answer that.
Oh,
Do you want, is that question, was that a legal question? Just a
it's
friendly,
legal, it's
friendly
legal.
amendment as the immigration lawyer.
It's a legal question, and it has to do with the ability to finite contain population.
Right, yeah, and it's an extremely valid question. But just a friendly amendment to that, just for clarity. People are entitled to dual nationality and dual citizenship depending on the other country. So if Canada allows for dual citizenship, then you can have 2 passports. And then the travel issue is a different issue. So, you know, besides all these lawyers, we also have an additional lawyer, my husband, who teaches international law. And he could probably answer this question on whether every person has an internal, you know, do we all have the right to health law? Is everybody entitled to health law? That's the same type of issue. But I think you raised an important point. Jesus was a refugee.
by the way,
And-
even before Jesus, Cain was already a refugee. Okay? So if you want to look at it, what it says in Genesis, he was a refugee. He was spelled out. He had to leave. And he had to be marked so nobody will kill him. So he was somewhere else. Now, in reference to these, I don't know about international. You guys are the eminence here. But my point is, basic. I always go to the basic and the frame of it. Each country has the right to put the list, A, B, C, D, because that's their law. Each country. Now, we did not have issues of passports and visas before the 19th century, though. This is a new issue. The issue of borders is relatively new in the human condition. 1995, there were only 15 states who had, when I say states, I'm talking about nations, had borders, physical borders, and that's because they had conflict. 2016, over 70 countries already have physical borders. And it's not because of conflict. It's because of immigration. It's because of all these refugees issues. Nobody wants these people to come into your place. So what do? You put a fence all around you. So how many more fences do we need? You tell me.
So just quickly, if Jamie doesn't want to answer, but right. So I think the question goes to national security issues, and whether the president has the right to enforce their borders. And I think every single country does have that right. The refugee issue is different than the issue of the undocumented population in the United States, which is up to about 14 million right now. Most of these individuals from Latin American countries are not claiming refugee status. I think Dr. Parra's talk addressed the refugee issue and our obligations, responsibilities as Christians, regardless of our political views. Jamie, do you want to?
Yeah, thank you for putting me on the spot. I don't usually work on Shabbat. To my paisano, fellow Canadian and fellow lawyer, I'm sorry. There are a couple of answers. Typical lawyer can't answer just one way. And the first issue is, what does international law say, the so-called law of nations? This is the tension between domestic law and international law. The short answer is, no, not everyone has the right to come in. And more importantly, situations of national security or even industrial policy, immigration policy, these are all sovereign decisions that a sovereign country can make and should make. But the United States, as a signatory to the 1951 Refugee Convention, which is a United Nations convention, dictates a set of rules that the United States must abide by because they're part of that system. So it's complicated because on one hand, we've got those responsibilities as a global citizen, but the tension of being a sovereign country that has consented to be part of this larger system has been laid bare by what's going on in recent times. But there is always an exception for national security, and that's something we must always keep in mind. So short answer.
Thank you. I think we have 2 more minutes.
We're going to run till about 11 o'clock, I'm told.
Okay.
And did you mention that Jamie, your husband, is a professor of law at California Western?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I don't know how all
Thank
the
you.
attorneys showed up this morning, but thank you.
Sorry, another attorney, not immigration attorney. This is more of a sharing than a question. But I know my views on immigration used to be very much in terms of there are laws, you need to abide by all the regulations and whatever. Otherwise, it's a bad thing. And that sort of framed my my view as a Christian was first authority, respect authority, and the rest came later. And that was until I had a personal face to it. Some years ago, I was asked by our HOA, our house was on a canyon, and there were migrant workers actually, that would live in the canyons. And I was invited to be part of a group of people to go down there and clear out the campsites and so forth. And I've got to tell you, it was a life-changing experience in a both positive and negative way. I have never felt so dirty, so violative of my Christian views as when I realized that I was taking away from these people who were so far from home, who came here just to work and send money home to their families in Mexico. I took away their shelter. I took away their food, their water. And it was wrong. It was morally wrong, and it was completely against my Christian beliefs. And from that point later, I realized that I had to take my Christian beliefs first and foremost. Yes, there are rules, there are regulations, those need to be dealt with. But as Christians, I think we need to go with these biblical principles first, always.
Thank you very much. Do we have another question? From another attorney, and then we'll open it up to the non-attorneys.
So given that, I wanted Les to operationally define right. Is that a philosophical question? Is it a legal question? Is there a confluence of the questions? Are they conflated together?
Les, do you want Les to respond to that, or Yvette, do you want to respond?
You know,
Why don't we let Yvette take a crack at this?
sure. I mean, is it a legal question? Is it a philosophical question? A couple of years ago, I think even this year, we saw the issue of sanctuary cities. Is everybody clear on what a sanctuary city is? San Diego has said they're a welcoming city, which is how they've gotten around the legal term of sanctuary city. Sanctuary city is actually not a legal term. It hasn't been defined, but it generally means that local law enforcement, the police officers, are not going to enter into agreements with ICE agents. That's generally what people think. One of the executive orders from President Trump addressed sanctuary cities and said those cities that are labeled as sanctuary cities will not have any federal funding. Well, what has happened with these sanctuary cities? Some of the churches have been involved and have even built like basements for people who are subject to removal orders or deportation orders. The issue of civil disobedience, it's a very hard issue. I wonder if Dr. Parra can weigh in on that, because I think it ties on what Manny and the issues here on, we have the law, we follow the law, but then there's all these other issues as Christians. It's a hard issue to decide on. What do you think about churches being involved in sanctuary cities, church policies on this issue?
It's an issue that is, I understand, but I don't agree with some of these enforcement of the law lately. I know California, the whole state of California is a sanctuary state, somewhat, it is. In my case, we talk about sanctuary campuses, universities that have DACA students. How do they feel safe? Are we helping them to feel safe? The problem with this is the way, if I should say, the way our government is enforcing these laws by removing funding of the different cities, the federal funding, whether they're universities or cities. Governors don't want to lose their funding, so it's kind of, you see it against the wall. What do? I'm not saying that, yes, we should do away with sanctuary cities, or no. We, as what was her name? As she mentioned, we need to be Christians first. I am a Christian first, and then I'm a citizen second. Being a citizen doesn't make me a Christian. I can be a Christian. I can be a citizen being a Christian. I have a whole talk about this particular issue in another occasion, but the whole idea of moving as a church, sanctuary, is our obligation as humans to protect human life. It's our obligation. That's the bottom line. We may not like how the people look like or what they do, but it's our obligation as a human. We need to, first of all, just reflect on that particular aspect. Because if we allowed, it's hard for me to say this, but if we allowed the laws to form our, I would say, the way I think, then we're doomed. Because as you see how laws are moving, they're not respecting life. People are being removed, regardless of how the conditions are. First, they said that they were going to remove or deport people that were criminals. Now they're deporting anyone who has a status that is questionable. I cannot abide by that. And I can only think about what Jesus said. Jesus said, to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God. And I'm not talking about tithe. I'm talking about law. And God is above that. I have to recognize that God is above that law, or any law in any country. So.
Yvette, can I just throw in something? This is like one of those issues that just ripples out and affects a lot of areas of public and individual life that you don't realize, not only economically, but otherwise. And back to the sanctuary city, the welcoming city, the whole debate, one of the reasons the city of San Diego, I'm just speaking from the whole city hall experience, kind of wrestled with that was, once beyond all of the moral or whatever implications of immigration law and all of that, once you begin to have your local police force doing federal work as federal actors, what does that mean? Does that mean then that the federal can dictate to your local police force other laws to enforce when they want to under emergency? Do they suddenly become under the control of the federal government under certain situations? If you have lawsuits because someone did not act properly in enforcing federal law, does the federal government defend those lawsuits, or is the city on the hook to do that? Just a number of implications for the local government, and so you've got a Democratic council here and a Republican mayor that all set up together and said, we're going to go quietly and softly on this because we're not so sure about suddenly having our police under the control of the President of the United States and maybe not having any legal protection to do so if we get ourselves sued for the way we do this, and a lot of other questions. So it just begins to raise a lot of questions you don't normally think about when you get into these kinds of, how do we apply all these laws, and who does it? Yeah. Les, and then we're going to...
Okay. The attorney about... There's a brand new article in Spectrum. All you attorneys and everyone needs to read it. It's the latest Seventh-day Adventist lawsuit in federal court categorizing religion as if they are deported, as a violation of their constitutional right. It's in the latest spectrum. Please read it, attorneys and everyone else. It addresses your question about whether religion can become a category.
Okay, and
you wanna
Steve,
take
I'm
one more?
sorry, I said San Diego's a sanctuary city.
No, you said it's a
Chula
welcoming.
Vista has decided to be a welcoming city.
Yes.
San Diego,
Is gone quietly on the issue
quiet.
because they don't.
But just from my personal experience, once a week I'm with the police department, so I talk with them about this issue, and just anecdotally, I always hear that they're very strained with their resources, and that, you know, to get training on immigration law, on how to enforce immigration law, is something that they really want to leave to ICE agents. Obviously, I'm not speaking for the police department or everybody, but President Trump, in another executive order, called for the hiring of 5,000 more Border Patrol agents, which is, you know, that's starting to come into play. So, you know, there's issues on both sides on whether we should be using police as ICE agents or whether we should just let them do what they do and to solve crime and, you know, have victims come forward and report these crimes to them and not be worried that they're going to be deported.
I think we are
So
out
we
of
have
time.
one more question?
One more quick
One more
question.
I want to
One more
share
quick
with,
question. Bob, is it
this is
quick?
just information.
In this church, there is neither minority
Just information.
or majority,
Article. It's an article.
for we are all one in Christ Jesus. Isn't that right, Willie? Isn't that right, Betty? That we're all one in Christ Jesus in this church.
you, Bob.
Amen. And
Okay.
I think we are,
We have lived up to our reputation this morning. Pardon me?
one more
Yeah.
question.
Richard, you have a quick question?
Thank you.
Okay, quickly, because we're running
I don't think we have time to answer questions, but there was a question put forth. Is it a right? Is it a philosophical issue? Is it a religious issue? Is it a legal issue? That really swirls around in my mind, and it has been doing so for the last half a century at least. And nobody ever answers it, except I think I hear an answer here.
Okay.
And the answer is this.
Okay.
The 10 seconds is,
I have heard that actually we have a right as Christians to override all other issues, whether they're philosophical or legal. That's what I hear, and that's not exactly comforting to me.
well, to that point, the terminology that's just been used of sanctuary city, if you just analyze that terminology, sanctuary has biblical and holy implications, and we're using that in a secular venue, which to me, there's a potential dangerous intersection of church and state.
Sanctuary City actually started off with in the 80s with the refugee with the Central America refugees. But I'll leave it up to Dr. Parra to finish the talk. But thank you very much.
Quick closing comment, Dr. Parra, or are we ready to close?
Well, as I mentioned before, we were talking in line, this is an issue that is ongoing and it's not getting easier. I think it's our responsibility to get informed, and not from media. There's a lot of other, we have a lot of other places that we have sound information. And let's not forget that we are Christians. That's all I can say. Let's not forget that we're Christians, and my responsibility is with the other, whoever my other is. That's all. Thank you. Appreciate it.
We have in this forum chapter, Jim, thank you again. Les, Rick, Gordon, Rick were here today. Dating back to the 80s, this is still one of the strongest, most active forums willing to take on any topic. And I remember looking back through the presentations as early as 1982, 3, 4, somewhere in there. This forum, before any other, addressed the whole issue of homosexuality in the church. Chuck Sandifer came down and did that. We have been on the cutting edge of any kind of discussion that's been out there. This is a topic that, addresses not only a concern of Christianity, but growing in our own denomination. When he speaks of our membership being 18 to 19 million people around the world, the vast majority of that is from Central South America. Even in the United States, where we have roughly 1 million members, a near majority of those are non-Anglo. When we talk about the policies of our church that affect us, even as a local congregation, it comes from this whole kind of discussion. So in December, we will go back to more of a traditional discussion. What's the GC doing to spank us for, ordaining women kind of thing. But today we wanted to do something that would be a more relevant, cutting-edge discussion. And so we'll go back and forth on these, the old traditional topics and the new ones. Thank you for joining in. And there is no potluck lunch. If you want to go to lunch with the speaker today, speak to me afterwards. I'm glad you came, and especially the attorneys. If you guys will come back more often, we'll have a lively discussion. Thank you again, Dr. Parra. Thank you again. And Yvette.